Joining us now is Warren Mundine, businessman and advisor to 4 Prime Ministers, and Brianna McKee from the Institute of Public Affairs and a great writer with The Spectator Australia. Now, I want to kick off, Warren. This week we had the news, it's been touch and go in the seat of Bradfield, that the Liberal Party has now lost to the Teals. That seat, Giselle Capterian was the candidate. One moment she was 1 seat ahead, then 27 behind. It's finally gone to the Teals. But you, Warren Mundine, could have been the candidate. In fact, I said you should have been the candidate. You stood to be the candidate of that seat. I said you would get it in a landslide. Would you have at least won that seat, Warren?
Well, to be fair to Giselle, the Liberal campaign, the coalition campaign was so bad we don't know who could have won anything. It was a disaster. You know, we got, Albanese's now got 60 people sitting on his backbench. So, look, in my modesty and everything, I say...
You're known as a very modest man, so I'm going to say it for you. You would have slammed it in. You would have won that seat. You know, coalition, you were morons not to put Warren Mundine into that seat of Bradfield. Absolute morons. Anyway, that's my opinion. Do you agree?
I'm sure the cartoonist Warren Brown would be happy.
He'd love it. He'd absolutely love it. Now, listen, Brianna, I wanted to ask you, the Teals have won that seat. The Teals did OK in certain seats, lost some others. But this issue of net zero. Now, you've written a brilliant article in The Spectator Australia this week where you're basically saying, well, I'm going to let you say what you're saying, because net zero, that is what Labor fought on. That is what the Teals fought on, and to their eternal shame, in my opinion. And that's why Warren Mundine didn't win that seat. That is what the coalition fought on, this insanity of net zero. Tell us what the problem with net zero is, particularly for young people, and how it can be resolved.
Well, that's right, Rowan. And my colleague Adam Crichton actually released some research on this week, and he showed that we're spending $9 billion on net zero, and that's up from $1.7 billion in 2022. So it's become one of our most expensive budget items, and Australians are paying for it, young people and older people as well. Bills have skyrocketed, and Australians used to have some of the lowest energy prices in the world, and now we have some of the highest. What our polling has shown is that Australians, young Australians in particular, they favour affordability and reliability. Only 1 in 5 Australians actually said that net zero was a priority for them. And I think perhaps the most interesting finding of this polling was that 98% of Australians said they wouldn't spend more than $500 per year, and 48% said they wouldn't pay a single cent. So as soon as you ask Australians to pay for net zero, the support just dries up.
And yet, Brianna, have a listen to our politicians endlessly talking about it.
A target, which is what we have with net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero. Net zero.
Net zero.
Net zero transformation.
That net zero is the bare minimum.
The move to net zero.
Set a trajectory to net zero.
And net zero is just by 2050.
Net zero, again, that's a straitjacket that I'm already getting out of.
You're prepared to walk away from net zero?
You're putting words in my mouth, Andrew. No policies have been adopted or walked away from at this time.
Labor is being all too cute when it comes to climate action. On one hand, committed to net zero by 2050, and in the next breath, opening and expanding massive new gas operations.
So, Warren, as Brianna says, young people are concerned, they're anxious because they're fed this propaganda endlessly about climate change, but when it gets down to it, they're the ones who in the future are going to be paying through the nose more and more and more for this stuff. And yet, deep down, they don't want to pay. They don't really want to pay much. So tell us, how should the coalition be fighting net zero? Why are they still wedded to it?
Yeah, and the other thing too, in regard to that, is that young people are actually very strong supporters of nuclear power as well, because they know what's going to work for the future of this country, and they're the ones who are going to pay it. And I don't blame them for not being very happy about it. I'm not very happy about paying it now, So so I think the coalition needs to follow their South Australian mates and actually start, going out there and say, we need to start forgetting about net zero. We need to start looking about how we can run our economy and how we can actually get businesses happening. Here we've got the bizarre situation where the government's going to be building gas terminals to import gas into the country when we've got enough gas, as Joel Fitzgibbon said, enough gas in this country not only to power our industry but also to export and make billions of dollars for us.
Absolutely. And Brianna, just quickly before we go, your colleague Claire Rowe also wrote about the climate anxiety that I referred to with Warren there about this, the kids coming out of our schools and universities terrified. We had Chris Bowen last week. He's lost every argument. He's got no more arguments left. He's back to the old scare campaign. World's going to come to a fiery end. We're all going to die unless we adopt net zero. Brianna, kids are smart, but what is needed to address the propaganda within our schools? How can we counter that?
Well, Rowan, the IPA has launched this new initiative, and as you said, Claire Rowe, who's a child psychologist, is at the helm, and it's looking to see if there's a connection between the national curriculum and the cross-curriculum priority of sustainability and climate anxiety, particularly in primary age school children. And what Claire Rowe has found is that children are at a particular stage of psychological development where they think about things in very concrete or literal terms. So when they hear phrases like climate action now or sea levels are rising, they interpret that literally, and that causes anxiety. So the first step towards addressing this is to take sustainability out of the curriculum. Currently it's taught through every subject in school, through maths, through English, through science. It's causing anxiety and it needs to be removed.
Fantastic. And you're 100% correct. And it is disgraceful, Warren, in my opinion, that these governments continue pushing this. It's child abuse, in my opinion. But thank goodness for people like the IPA, and you should subscribe to the IPA. Go to ipa.org.au because you get people like Brianna and Claire and Adam and all others doing a great job countering the madness. And believe you me, we're in for 3 years of madness.